Hi everyone, thank you so much for checking out this video today. So my name's Megan and I'm going to be sharing about eating disorders in athletes. During this, I will be covering my story of full recovery from anorexia and orthorexia. So to start, just a little bit about me is, my name's Megan. I ran cross country and track in high school and I ran cross country for 2 years in college. I graduated from Carroll University, where I studied exercise science for my bachelor's degree and pursued a doctorate in physical therapy. I currently work as a school based physical therapist in a small school district in Wisconsin. I'm also the founder and executive director of the Live Recovered nonprofit. I'm recovered from anorexia, orthorexia, depression, OCD, and social anxiety, so I'm super passionate about raising awareness on mental illness. I'm also a current graduate student pursuing a Master's of Education in Health Education and Promotion with a concentration in eating disorders from Plymouth State University, and I'm an eating disorder recovery peer mentor. So, what is Live Recovered? Live Recovered is a nonprofit organization. We work to shine a light on eating disorders, helping others to live fully recovered. So, this is done through speaking events and trainings. I go to high school, college teams, share my story of full recovery. I also train school counselors and school staff on eating disorders and different programs. We share recovery stories on our websites. We have a bunch of different stories from a variety of individuals. We have faith based eating disorder recovery groups, and we currently have a peer mentorship program. So, why is this presentation relevant to you? So, if you're struggling with an eating disorder, with disordered eating, with body image, this presentation will give you hope of full recovery. It will give you tips on how to improve body image and your relationship with food, and also different resources and treatment locations, and some kind of tips on how to find those locations. If you're not struggling with an eating disorder or body image, this presentation will help you to recognize eating disorder signs in others. It will help you to learn how to support someone that's struggling and help to create a positive team atmosphere. So, as a little overview, there will be two parts to this presentation: one, my story, and then two, lessons that were learned in recovery. So, just to preface my story, I don't share any specific numbers on my weight during recovery or after recovery. I don't share any images or anything. Just in case you struggle with an eating disorder, just know that that information will not be shared. Um, just for me personally, that was something that was really difficult for me in my recovery, to hear numbers from other individuals and to kind of see images. So, as a little disclaimer. So, my story, my struggles emerged in high school. I started running cross country and track at West Bend East, which is a larger high school in Wisconsin. I kind of surprised myself with how fast I was on the team. I had no idea how fast I would be. I grew up watching my mom run. I had friends that ran. I enjoyed running the mile in middle school. So I went out for cross country and just kind of gave it a go. And about halfway through my season, my freshman year in high school, I made it to the top of my team. And I started to put some intense pressure on myself to maintain that place on my team. I really was very driven and very hardworking. So I placed a lot of emphasis on performance rather than kind of enjoying the experience. So I started to experience isolation, low self worth, and just kind of an unhealthy relationship with running by my drive for perfection. So in high school, I started to struggle with something called orthorexia. So orthorexia is obsession with healthy eating. I use healthy in air quotes now just because I don't believe that certain foods are healthy, unhealthy, or good or bad. But during that time, I was very restrictive with what I was eating. And that led me to just be really isolated from teammates, as I had a hard time going to things like pasta parties or just meals out with friends because I was very worried about the food and kind of what was in it, what would be present. So I started to just experience more isolation and started to become really focused on food and weight in my body. So unfortunately, when I went to college, my struggle worsened. So the eating disorder shifted from orthorexia to anorexia. So instead of just being very particular with the types of foods that I was eating, in addition to that, I started to become really restrictive. In my mind, I had a picture of what a top runner looked like. I saw the girls and young women that were winning the races. I saw the people on Instagram that I looked up to, and I thought that my body had to look like theirs, and to me, that meant that I had to be smaller. So I just started to struggle really deeply and turned to food and exercise as coping mechanisms, as ways to suppress the challenging emotions that I was experiencing entering college, which included kind of the transition with moving away to home, struggling with social anxiety, and having just difficulties with making friends, with feeling comfortable in this new environment, my perfectionism, being very focused on my grades, and really I turned to food and exercise to help to cope with that. Unfortunately, during college, with that transition and the stresses, my mental health started to worsen. So I started to struggle with OCD, my social anxiety worsened, as well as generalized anxiety, and I started to experience depression. So just backtracking for a second, during college, I was still performing well and at the top of my team, but I was engaging in unhealthy behaviors. I really thought that to be a top runner, I had to be really restrictive with what I was eating, be really focused on my weight, and just be really over dedicated to running. And it was something that was all consuming to me. It was something that I no longer experienced joy in. I hadn't really experienced joy in running since my freshman year in high school for a little bit that first season, but after that, the perfectionism kicked in, and then I wasn't experiencing joy in running anymore. It was something that I did for my self worth, for my identity, because I felt like I was just a fast runner and there was nothing else to me than being a fast runner. I felt like I couldn't just be Megan because being Megan wasn't enough. Now I felt really loved by my family and my friends, but outside of my family and my close friend group, I just felt lost and like I wasn't seen and really wasn't heard. So that also kind of contributed to just feeling like I needed to have this like perfect body to be seen, to be noticed, to be loved, to be wanted um, by other individuals. So that's just kind of in college, it just started to worsen and ramp up to the point where I wanted to desperately stop running. I would train in the summer before my sophomore year, and I would just cry in my parents' driveway because I so desperately wanted to stop running. But my mind was just racing, and all these thoughts were in my head that if I stopped running, it wouldn't be as fast, my body would change. And it was just a really difficult time for me. Fortunately, there was a spark to my healing. So I talked to my college coach about how my mileage had been really reduced um, for my summer training, just because my parents had noticed this and then they had me stop running. So I stopped running 2 weeks before the season, which was something that was really difficult, um, but something that was really necessary. So I told him, and he kind of suspected some things. He didn't share anything at the time, but he just noticed kind of being really particular with my food too and having a hard time eating with my teammates. So he ended up sharing a story of a runner that he had had who had an eating disorder. And I remember reading her story and just relating to it so deeply, how she viewed running, her body, weight, her grades. And I remember thinking that maybe something isn't right with what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not doing this in a healthy way. I had suspected for a little bit that there were some issues because I knew that it wasn't normal to cry over certain foods or to be so uncomfortable that um, I just had to pre plan everything and to be so focused on running and have a hard time resting. So I knew that there were some indicators, but I still didn't think that it wasn't too much of an issue. So reading that story really sparked in me um, the truth that my behaviors and thoughts were unhealthy, which is part of the reason why I share my story because a recovery story is what sparked my journey. So, starting to see my behaviors and thoughts as unhealthy, I talked with my family and started my recovery journey. So, for me, this looked like getting connected to a therapist and just started with a therapist, trying to work on body image, and then just seeing that this was kind of a deeper issue and working with a dietitian as well. So while my recovery journey had started, my college athletic career had ended. So my sophomore year at Carroll was actually my last year competing. For me, I thought I had a little bit of disordered eating that I could work with a therapist and dietitian and overcome it pretty quickly and be back for running my junior year. Unfortunately, I couldn't compete in a healthy way. Running and my eating disorder were just so intertwined that I could not pull them apart. So I had to make the painful decision with recommendations from my treatment team and my family to not run. And for me, that was crushing. My whole identity was being a runner and being a fast runner. I had no idea who Megan was as a person, who I was as a person. I only knew Megan the runner. I didn't know just Megan. So it was very crushing. I really felt quite hopeless and felt like I couldn't continue on, which I know sounds really extreme, but my whole self worth and value and identity were connected into being a runner. And to have that taken away, to not be able to do that was crushing. I was left feeling like nothing, like I was worthless, like there was no reason for me to be alive, no purpose to me. So I definitely struggled with some really dark thoughts during that time. But fortunately, that allowed me to dive deeper into recovery, and I started to learn who I was outside of running. So, really, before recovery, my interest would have just been running and school. That was about it. But during recovery, I started to just get involved in different organizations on campus. I started to dive deep into my faith and get connected with a faith based group, university, and just started to explore who I truly was, and am, like, what I dislike, because I was so focused on changing my body and running that I really didn't know who I truly was. So, unfortunately, with the therapy, dietitian appointments, I did a more intensive program for my OCD and social anxiety. I worked through that for years and finally reached a place of freedom. I was able to return to running and relearn the joy of running, to know what it feels like to be strong and nourished in my body, to be able to run without feeling the compulsive need to, just to experience the joy of being outside. I experienced freedom from negative body image, from worries about my weight, from obsessive thoughts around food and exercise. I experienced freedom to have birthday cake on my birthdays and to go out to meals with family and friends, to take rest days and rest weeks when I need them. I experienced freedom and full recovery from anorexia, orthorexia, OCD, depression, and social anxiety, which is why I'm here today. I know the pain and struggle and darkness of struggling with many mental illnesses and just the overwhelming hopelessness. So I share my story to say that there is hope, that things will get better, that full recovery is possible, and it's possible for you too. So during my recovery journey, it may have sounded very linear towards the end that I started therapy and everything was all good. It wasn't. It was up and down quite a bit. I would start to take steps towards recovery, and then I would take steps back because it was a little bit too scary. And I went back and forth like that for a long time. And then I was kind of stagnant at quite a bit. So I learned quite a few lessons along my journey to full recovery, and just other people have shared different lessons with me and just different things I've learned in coursework. So here are some lessons. The first one is that eating disorders don't have a look and they don't present the same. So the fact is that only 6% of individuals with eating disorders are underweight. So someone can have a severe eating disorder at any weight. So just recognizing that you can't look at someone and know that they're struggling. This is also to help too. I know that in my own journey, I didn't feel sick enough quite a bit. And I really compared myself to other eating disorder stories and read what their weight got down to, how much weight they lost, what their picture looked like. So I know that was something that was a big struggle for me. So just remembering that eating disorders don't have a look, and someone can have a very severe eating disorder at any weight. So please don't discredit your struggle just based on your weight. Also, that many different eating disorders exist: binge eating disorder, OSFED, bulimia, anorexia, ARFID, pica, but there are a wide range of eating disorders. So here's a long list of eating disorder signs and symptoms to help you see if maybe you might be struggling with an eating disorder. Here are some of them. Feel free to pause the video and repeat them. Lesson number two, don't try to look like any other runner or any other athlete because your body is unique. Um, you have a unique set of genetics, family history, and inner makeup that makes your body unique and different from everyone else's. So to look at someone else and to think that your body needs to look like them is really harmful to your mind, your body, and your soul, just because your body's not meant to look like theirs. I definitely fell into this trap and I would look up top runners and think that I needed to look like them in order to be fast. And that was something that was really damaging because my body was not meant to be at that size. And that led me to be very restrictive in my eating, to be very focused on exercise, to lose out on precious life moments because I was so focused on changing my body. So please remember that you don't have to try to look like any other athlete, any other runner, any other basketball player, any other soccer player, because your body is unique and good just as it is. Lesson number three is that eating disorders don't bring longevity to sport. This is absolutely true. Um, as someone might be struggling with an eating disorder, maybe their performance doesn't change at first, and maybe it does. Um, but just recognizing that if you want to do your sport for the long term and be able to move your body and feel free and to be injury free, eating disorders are not the way to do that. Eating disorders can have a variety of really negative effects. Physically, that can include poor performance, increased injury rates, loss of a monthly period. It can cause anxiety and depression, social isolation. So, recognizing that eating disorders are not the way to success, it's not the way to pursue your sport long term. Number four, so this is for the women and girls. The importance of having a monthly period. This was not something that was highlighted to me, and it's something that I wish was. So, not having a regular monthly period is known as amenorrhea, and this can be a sign of under eating or overtraining. So, when we have a monthly period, that's a sign that we have enough estrogen in our body to build bone. So, when we don't have that monthly period, we don't have enough estrogen in our body to be building bone density. And high school and early college years are really important years to be building bone. So, if you're not getting your period for extended amounts of time, that can lead to decreased bone density, which can cause stress fractures, regular fractures, early onset osteoporosis. So, just recognizing that if you aren't getting a monthly period, please reach out for support. This can be a sports medicine doctor, a sports medicine dietitian, reaching out to someone who can help and support you with this and kind of get to the root cause. Because likely it can be energy deficiency, so overtraining and under eating. And really making sure that if you're struggling with this and there's a professional that encourages you to go on birth control to kind of jumpstart your period. That's kind of like a band aid treatment over this because it's not getting to the root cause. So, really working to get to the root cause is very important. Lesson number five is to seek treatment if you are struggling. And I love this quote. It says, asking for help is never a sign of weakness. It's one of the bravest things you can do, and it can save your life. Seeking treatment definitely saved my life. I don't know if I would be here today without treatment, and I know that my life would not have the wonderful quality that it does today without seeking treatment. So, really making sure that you're asking for help. And even if you're not struggling with an eating disorder, if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, um, OCD, just any sort of mental illness or struggle, please reach out for help because your life matters and you deserve help and treatment. So, if you are thinking that you need to get help, but you're not sure how to get help, these are some tips. So, number one is to reach out to a trusted individual. So, this could be a parent, a coach, an older sibling, a teacher, a guidance counselor. Really just reaching out, a spouse, reaching out to them and letting them know that you're struggling. And maybe that seems really scary and difficult. So, you can write it down and leave a note for them, send them a text, leave them a voicemail, um, just anything to kind of get the information to them and let them know that you're struggling because you deserve help. The next step is to get connected to a treatment team. So if you're able, if you have insurance and you are able to cover the cost, really getting connected with a therapist, dietitian, and psychiatrist, um, or at least therapist, dietitian, and preferably someone that is specialized in eating disorders to help you just to get the help that you need. Now, if this is not a possibility, reaching out to the guidance counselor at school or on campus, if you're in high school and college, if you are working, reaching out to the employee assistance program, if your workplace has one, just to start to get some help. There's also a variety of support groups if you are unable to kind of cover costs of a therapist and dietitian. And the third step is to be proud of yourself and to remember that full recovery is possible. Recovery can be really difficult and challenging because it's almost like you have to do everything that your brain is telling you not to do. You kind of have to do the opposite of everything that you think. So just remembering that it is really strong and brave of you to reach out for help and to pursue recovery. And pursuing recovery is something that your future self will thank you for. So, resources, the suicide prevention hotline is 988. So, if you're struggling, please use that because we need you in this world. The National Eating Disorder Association hotline is right here. There's an eating disorder screening tool on the NEDA website. This is not to diagnose you, but it can give you kind of an indication of if you're struggling. And if you're a high school college athlete at school, you can reach out to the counseling center. So, lesson number 6, we have 8 lessons, so we're almost there. Reaching out to friends that may be struggling. So, this is a really important slide to me just because when I was in high school, one of my really close friends was struggling with an eating disorder as well. Our whole friend group knew about it. We saw the signs, we kind of heard how she talked about her body and food, but we had no idea what to do, so we did nothing. So, I really want to equip you to know what to do if someone in your life is struggling with an eating disorder. So, first is to recognize those eating disorder signs and symptoms. So, you can kind of go back and see the different list. So, the first step is to recognize, to kind of notice that maybe your friend is running off to the bathroom right away after lunch, or maybe they are skipping lunch. Maybe they're talking about going to the gym after practice, after you had an intense workout already. So, those are some potential warning signs of an eating disorder. Or maybe you're living with someone and you notice that food disappears really, really quickly. So, just reaching out, well, first recognizing those signs and symptoms. The next step is to reach out to them. So, have a conversation one on one in person. Let them know that you're reaching out because you care. And during this conversation, use I statements. So, I'm worried about you because I've noticed that you seem really anxious around food, or I noticed that you stopped joining us at the dining hall. I noticed that you're doing extra workouts after practice. So, really commenting on behaviors that you see rather than commenting on a change in weight, just because we want to kind of stay away from commenting on someone's body. Be prepared that they may get defensive or deny that they're struggling. They may feel shame. They may also not recognize that they're struggling. Um, a thing with eating disorders is that they can be very sneaky. So people may think that what they're doing is healthy and what they're doing is good for their bodies when actually it's something that's really harmful for their bodies. So step number 4, encourage them to get professional treatment. So that includes a therapist, dietitian, just continuing to support them and helping them to get the help that they need. Number 5 is to let someone else know. So a coach, athletic trainer, if you are in contact with their parent, that would be awesome to let them know. And to create a supportive environment for them. So in terms of the supportive environment, first be supportive. So be someone that they can call during times of a struggle, a listening ear. Celebrate the wins with them. Acknowledge the difficulty that they are going through and how brave they are and how proud you are of them. There we go. Number 7 is to stop triggers. So, really working to help to shut down negative conversations. So, this can be conversations about bodies, it could be conversations that athletes need to look a certain way. There are a variety of just negative comments that focus on weight and bodies that you can help to shut down. You can help to redirect the conversation by saying something like, I don't think that this is a topic we should be talking about. You can also just really implement policies on the team, especially if you're a coach or a captain. You can really have policies in place to help stop that negative body talk, to not discuss weight with each other, to not talk about clothing sizes. So those would be really great conversations to have as a team and policies to create. The next is to be a role model. So working to neutralize food, avoiding referring to foods as good or bad. For someone in recovery, it can be really hard to hear that certain foods are bad if you say, I'm so bad for eating this, or that's such a bad food that I eat. That can be really harmful, especially if they're having to incorporate more foods and they're trying to break down those rules in their head. If they kind of hear messages on the team that, like, I have to be good, I can't eat that, that can be even more challenging for them to have that challenge food then. And also to shift the focus away from appearance. So instead of discussing changes that you notice in someone's body or size, really working to shift the focus to how hard they're working at practice, to their personality, to those other qualities that have nothing to do with how much they weigh. And finally, to learn more, gaining knowledge on eating disorders is a great way to be more supportive and understand what the person is going through. You can look to different nonprofit sites and eating disorder coalitions. Number 7 is to learn tools to support healthy relationship with food and body image. So I believe that everyone can learn positive tools to help with their relationship with food and body image, especially with the culture and society that we're in. So true healthy eating is where you have a positive relationship with food, where you feel comfortable and confident with eating, where you're eating a wide range of foods and honoring your hunger cues. So true healthy eating is not cutting out certain foods, it's not maintaining a strict diet, counting calories, or fearing food. So, tools to improve your relationship with food. If you are struggling, if you are feeling very fearful of food, if you're feeling out of control with food, if you don't know how much to eat, if you struggle with feeling hungry and full, reaching out to a dietitian or therapist for support can be really great. Especially reaching out to a dietitian that's an intuitive eating dietitian would be super important, as they're focused on a non diet approach to eating and not focused on kind of weight. Number 2 would be to neutralize food. So starting to shift the mindset that you may have that certain foods are good and other foods are bad. When we have that mindset, it can make us more likely to binge on those bad foods as we try to avoid them. Um, so that can help to reduce binges if we're not labeling foods as good or bad. And also, it can help us to not feel shameful if we're eating those bad foods, in quotes, because I don't believe foods are actually bad. Um, So just working to really neutralize food. Yes, some food has more nutrients than others. Some are more nutrient dense, some are less nutrient dense. But that doesn't make one food good or one food bad. Number 3 is to avoid comparison. Your body has unique energy needs. Like I said earlier, you have a unique body, a unique set of genetics and family history that only you have. So your energy needs are unique and they vary every day. I used to be very obsessed with trying to figure out how much should I eat every day? What's the perfect amount? If I exercise this much, how much can I eat now? Um, our bodies aren't a calculator. Um, so they are smart, they are flexible. So to use online calculators and things like that aren't helpful. Our bodies are really smart. So you can trust what your body is telling you. Now, if you're struggling with an eating disorder, you may not have accurate hunger and fullness cues. So I would encourage you to get connected with a dietitian. But our bodies are smart. So if one day we eat more than we need for that day, the next day maybe we don't feel as hungry. Or maybe we don't eat enough one day because we're super busy with class and get caught up in things, so we don't have our usual snacks. And then the next day we're feeling more hungry because our body wants to make up for that. So our body is um, very smart and knows how much energy that we need. And finally, to consider exploring intuitive eating for athletes, which is a non diet approach to eating. Again, the disclaimer is if you're struggling with disordered eating disorder, I would encourage you to get connected with a dietitian first and work on regular meal patterns and habits before intuitive eating, because intuitive eating focuses on hunger and fullness. If we've been disconnecting and suppressing our hunger for a while, it can be really hard to feel when we're hungry. And if we're struggling with a restrictive eating disorder, we may have the mindset of, like, oh, I'm already full, so I don't need to eat more. So just recognizing that fact. Tools to improve body image. So, number one is to practice self compassion, to treat yourself like a friend. If you spoke the same words that you do over your own body to a friend, how would they feel? So, just kind of recognizing that it can be really hard to accept our bodies if we are constantly bullying ourselves. If self compassion is too hard to start with, which can be very hard, it took me a while to work up to self compassion. Start with neutral statements. So my therapist of the past taught me of that taught me about this. So where you look in the mirror and I would pick apart parts of my body, I would label them in negative terms. She said, just look in the body and say, these are my arms, these are my legs. So instead of giving those descriptors to your arms and your legs, just saying, these are my arms, these are my legs, this is my stomach, instead of adding unhelpful descriptors to them. The next is to unfollow unhelpful accounts on social media and to resist comparing yourself to others. So please unfollow those accounts that make you feel poorly about your body, that only show one body type, accounts that just leave you feeling like there's something wrong with your body. And work to follow helpful accounts that have body diversity, that promote positive eating habits. And it may even be a good idea to take a break from social media. For me, I got very caught up in following um, a lot of accounts that were unhelpful for my recovery. So I had to just take years off from social media because I was at a point where I couldn't use it in a healthy way. Number three is to get rid of your scale. So the number on the scale is just your the gravitational pull on your body. It doesn't show your worth. It doesn't show your value. It doesn't show your identity. It doesn't show how fast you're going to run. It doesn't show how great of a soccer player you are. The number really is just a number, and it can be really hard to just know that truth, especially when we're struggling. So, something that can be really important is to get rid of your scale because that number doesn't define you. It doesn't show how great of an athlete you are. It doesn't show how wonderful you are. So, really working to break up with the scale. And number four is to focus on what your body can do rather than how it looks. So often we can get caught up in how our body looks in our uniform, how we look on pictures on social media, how we look in the mirror, that we forget of how awesome our body is and how it allows us to be alive in this moment, that we can't be alive without our body. So just recognizing that your body's the thing that got you out of bed this morning, that allows you to breathe, that allows you to listen to this talk, that allows you to pursue your sport and your dreams, to spend time with family and friends. And that has nothing to do with how it looks. So, really working to shift the focus to what your body can do and all of its amazing functions rather than how it looks. How your eyes allow you to see sunrises, how your ears allow you to hear the voices of the people that you love, how your arms allow you to give hugs, how your stomach holds all of your internal organs and digests your food to give you energy to pursue your dreams and live your life. How your legs have carried you all over the country, all over the world potentially. How your feet allow you to stand and have just visited so many different places. So just recognizing the fact that we can shift from focusing on our how our body looks to what it can do. And the final lesson is that you are more than an athlete. You are a person first before you're an athlete. And if you're anything like me during my struggle, I thought that I was just an athlete. I didn't see myself as someone that wasn't an athlete. I definitely put my sport first over my health. I put running first over my health. But the truth is that your health and well being is so much more important than your sport. It's so much more important than another season or another conference win or another PR. Your health and well being comes first. Your sport can always be there for you. Maybe it won't be there in the same avenue that it is now, but there are other opportunities to pursue it later. And just remembering that you have so much to offer to this world beyond being an athlete, that being an athlete is not all that you are. You're a person first. You are you first before an athlete. So I'm going to finish with this quote. And it says, "Don't give up. This world needs what you have to offer." Um, so I know everyone goes through challenges and difficulties, and maybe you're going through one right now. And I just encourage you to not give up because you have a unique set of gifts and talents and abilities that only you have to offer to this world. And the world needs that. This world needs your unique gifts and talents and abilities. This world needs you. So if you are struggling, please reach out for help because you are so needed in this world. You have a beautiful purpose, even if it doesn't feel like it. Um, Feelings aren't facts, thoughts aren't always true. So just because you think that you don't have purpose, just because it feels like you don't have purpose, that doesn't mean that it's true. Because I know the truth that you were created on purpose for a purpose. And I know that you are needed in this world. So thank you so much for watching this video today. I am more than happy to chat. If you want to get connected, if you have more questions on my journey, if you are struggling and just want to learn um, some different support and reset sources, I can absolutely help you. You can get connected with our team. So you can email us at liverecovered@gmail.com. I check out I run our email and Instagram. So if you message there, I'll be the one that reads your message. You can also check out our website at liverecovered.org and check out our different services and things that we offer. And here's a list of the references. So thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this was just a message of hope to your heart and taught you a little bit more about eating disorders. Just know that you're loved and you always matter. Thanks, everyone.